This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're traveling to a beautiful place. Just think of the water, the wind, the cliffs. Beautiful place. We're talking about Santorini. This is an abstract strategy game for 2 to 4 players from Roxley Games. And here we're going to be trying to build the city of Santorini and getting on top of a tower that's 3 levels tall. Let's take a look. Santorini is a beautiful, 3-dimensional abstract strategy game where you're trying to get to the top of a 3rd-story tower to win the game, and it's for 2 to 4 players. Here we have a 2-player game set up. One player has 2 people of blue, and the other one has 2 people of white. Those are placed 1 player at a time gets to place them. And in the basic game, it's very simple. On your turn, you're going to move one of your 2 people to any unoccupied spot that surrounds them, any of the 8 spots. So this player could move to any of those, let's say move there, then they must build in one of the 8 spots that are unoccupied there. And if you cannot build, you actually lose. And if you're building on a ground level, you'll use a level 1 building there. Now, if that was already built before, then if I was going to build something, I would be building a level 2. And if this was already built when I had moved and I wanted to build that there, I would actually build a level 3. And if the level 3 was already built there before and I moved, you would put a blue dome on top of it, which means nobody can jump on top of that. Those are the 3 different levels. You can build any level regardless of what level you're on, as long as it's next to you and unoccupied. Now, if this was like this, you can always move. Again, if it's unoccupied, you could go there if it's next to you, but you can only go up 1 level. So if this was like this, we could not jump up there because that's up 2 levels. But this person could have jumped up 1 level and then built anywhere around it that's unoccupied like that. Now, if you happen to be on a level that's higher than that, let's say you were actually on this level, you could jump down as far as you want. So you could actually jump down to any unoccupied area around that and then maybe say build again. Maybe then you build up there. So that's pretty much how it works. And if you can't build, you lose. And that's pretty much how it goes until somebody jumps up to the 3rd level. That's basically how the basic game works. Now, after you've played the game a few times on the basic level, you can start adding in what's called God powers to make the game different every time you play. There's actually 30 different God powers in the basic base game. Now, these are beginner ones. They have the little flower on them. There's 9 beginner ones. Here's just 3 of them. For example, Atlas. You can build the dome at any level, so you can stop people from being able to get on those later. Artemis allows you to move an additional spot. Instead of just moving 1, they can move 2. In Athena on the left, if you go up that a level on your turn, the opponent cannot. So even though those are just very basic things, and you'll basically be placing, 1 player will select from the gods, 1 for each player. In this case it's 3, but let's say it was a 2-player game. You'd select the 2. The other player would get to select their god first, then you. So it's a little I slice you, I slice you choose type of mechanic there, and so that's how it works. And so these interact very interestingly, but there's 9 of these basic ones, but then there's some advanced ones as well. Now here's 3 of the very many advanced gods, and these have just a different symbol on them. They're all numbered. I'll show you the rulebook here in just a moment, but they just do things that are a little bit more complex. For example, when your opponent starts their turn, if they have somebody that's higher than somebody else, then they cannot move that turn. So they have to build pretty much and move their guys evenly. Hera here cannot win if they move to an outside area. And Zeus can actually build below them. They can just move and then build something right beneath them to get them to go up fast, which is really powerful. So as you can see, that these ones are a little bit more complex, and many of them are even more complex than this, but I just showed you sort of 3 extra ones there. And here's the rulebook, laid out really well, has them numbered. Those little people on top of each one tells you what number of players those gods are good for. And then so they're on the left there, those are all like sort of the basic god. And as I look at the advanced god page, as you can see, there's very many of them. The rules are pretty clear for all of them. There's just really a ton of them. So if you're interested in learning more, go ahead and get down the rule book and look at them in detail. Now, when playing with a 2-player game, all the gods can be used, any of them. But when playing with 3 or 4, you want to make sure that you use the ones that have 3 and 4. That says 3 and 4. This one says only play this one with 4 players. So let's talk about the 3 and 4 player game. Now, when playing with 3 or 4 players, you must use god powers. And when playing with 3 players here, you'll add another set of tokens. That's the 3rd player. It plays exactly the same. The first one to get to the top of 3 wins. If you lose by not being able to build, you would have to remove your tokens, and then it's just the last 2 players seeing who will have victory. In a 4-player game, you still just use 2, and you sit opposite your partner so the turns rotate between each of the different teams. Every person will get a god power. You cannot share your other teammate's god power, but you are basically trying to use your god power to get you to win like normal. Alright, well there's Santorini. Now wow, this game has gotten a ton of buzz throughout board game media over the last couple months, enough to make me want to try it out, even though I'm not typically a big fan of just purely abstract games. I tend to like games that have maybe some abstract elements. In fact, Bruno Cathala is my favorite designer, and many of his games have a lot of abstract-y type elements to them, but I'm not usually the one that just likes pure abstract sort of chessy type games. But I was interested because people are saying how great this game was. And I gotta say, even with that bias of not typically liking purely abstract games, and this really is a pure abstract game, I really thoroughly enjoyed this game. It hit on a lot of cylinders. One, it's super simple to teach. I mean, you set it up, hey, you move, you build. If you can't build, you lose. When you get to the 3rd, you win. Pretty much it. I mean, it's really simple, and I like that. And I like that you could just get someone playing within a minute of playing the game, and you can play it 2 or 3 times and go, okay, let's mix something in. Let's throw the god powers in. And wow, does that really open up this game. I mean, geez, you look at all these cool god powers and you're like, oh man, that's cool. Oh man, that's cool. And I like the fact that like one player gets to pick which 2 and then they get the last pick, because that way it's going to be trying to be as balanced as possible. Sometimes we try to just like randomly give them out, but then like, the player who ends up picking 2nd ends up getting their butt kicked. So anyways, I really love that. And I like the fact that they allow you to ease into it. Here's 9 or so or 10 basic ones. Let's start with those. And you could literally just, even if the whole game was just the basic and the basic gods, this would have been a fantastic game. But the fact that there's like way more than that, I think 30 gods or so with all the advanced gods, and every game feels different. I think that's probably the biggest excellent part about this game is for people that want a quick experience, but like a lot of us, we like to have new experiences. And this game lets you play the game, but it still feels like a new experience every time you play the game. And I think that's why gamers are gonna love this. Now, a little comment on player count. I also agree, like the rulebook states, it is best as a 2-player game. This game really does shine as 2 players. 4 players, the team versus team is also cool. I like that you can, you each have your own god power. I wouldn't ever play a 4-player game if it's your first game, because trying to keep track of 2 other god powers, 3 if you're paying attention to your teammate, there's a lot going on there. So I would only play 4 if everyone's experienced in the game. It still works fine, but I still like the 2-player distilled experience the best. 3 players is the only player count I actually did not like. I wouldn't recommend playing this with 3 players. I'll give you an example. The last couple times that we played at 3 players, even during the game, it's always about like, okay, well, who's gonna police who? Now you gotta police that person. Now you gotta police that person. All right, well, I policed them last time, you police them this time. And a couple of times, the last 2 times we played 3 players actually, it got to the point where actually I was going to lose. And I had to decide who was going to win. If I went here, that player was gonna win. If I went here, that player was gonna win. I did not like that. Now granted, that's probably not gonna happen every game, but if it does, it makes the game sour for, I think, all of us. And even in the games that doesn't happen, you still feel like you're trying to take your turns policing people. So I don't think it works with 3, but 2, amazing. 4, great if you got experienced players. Overall, I really like the game. Now, it still does feel very abstract to me. Much like I'd say Onitama that came out last year, which was a pure abstract game, but it was simple, you did things different, the games changed every game. It felt very much from that like higher level abstract perspective similar to me. So if you didn't like Onitama and you felt like that was too abstract, then you'll probably think this is too abstract. But like me, if you thought Onitama was like, well, I don't typically like abstract, but I really like that, then you're probably really gonna like this. And if you like just really like chessy type games and you don't like a bunch of extra fluff in there, then you're gonna wanna try this one out, because the game is good without the god powers, but it really opens up with it. So overall, I absolutely love the game. You may or may not, I have talked to people who this is still just too abstracty for them. So it is a great game. It will have people liking it that don't typically like abstracts, but if you just totally hate abstracts, even though it's a great game, it still might not be for you. But for me, it is for me, because I love the replayability of this. So I'm going to be keeping it on my gaming library, so let's induct it properly with a saxophone serenade.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.